See, he never heard God speak until he got to the mountain. He never heard God's direction until he got to the higher place. Until he got to the next level. We have to take our journey to find God. We have to be connected with God through our worship, through our prayer, our fasting. And we have to know God's voice. See, we have to know what God's saying to us. We have to be able to distinguish God's voice from everything else. You say, where's that at in the story, Brother Hudson? Right here, verse 11. And he said, go forth and stand upon the mountain before the Lord, and behold, the Lord passed by. A great wind rent the mountains and brake it into pieces before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. And then there was an earthquake. The Lord was not in it. And there was a fire. He was not in it, but he was in a still small voice. You see, if you go back in the Old Testament and look how God worked in the Old Testament before this, look at Moses, Joshua. God came down in a burning bush. God came down and spoke to Moses. God came down and put a glow of the glory of God on Moses' face when he talked to God. God came down in an audible voice. God spoke in the garden. But see, in this particular area, when he went to another level, things didn't happen the way they used to happen. He came in a still small voice. You see, Elijah went to another level with God. And so God didn't work the same way he always used to work. He worked differently. He went to a higher place. So when he went to a higher place, you know what happened? He went to another level. And so he received something different from God. See, you know what my prayer is for us? Is that God wouldn't do the same old thing in our lives. He wouldn't do the same old in our church. But you and I would get to another level so he could do something different. Something out of the ordinary, something unusual, something we've never seen. That's what I want. That's what I feel like our church is called to be. That's where I feel like our church is called to go. To another level. We have to change. We have to get ourselves out of this position and get up here. We have to get to another level. You see, it wasn't until he found himself all alone at another level where he heard the voice of God speak to him. And then it says in 13, and it was so when Elijah heard it that he wrapped his face in his mantle. And there came a voice to him. When this voice came, you know what there wasn't? There was no distractions. There was no other voices. There was no wind. There was no fire. There was no earthquake. It was just God and Elijah on another level. At a higher place. That's where we got to go. Not just once a week. Every day. I'm challenging you. I'm challenging me. And I'm telling us that if we're going to get to where God wants us, we can't stay where we're at. I'm telling you what God's telling me. We have to move to another level. We have to. Because if we don't, we'll never see where God wants us to go. And we'll never hear God's voice like He wants us to hear it. We have to get to another level. It has to start with you individually. You have to make the decision that you're going to go to another level. You have to make this decision that you're going to soar like an eagle. I want to read something to you as I close. It says this. It's about eagles. Though many of us have seen pictures of a huge eagle's nest high in the branches of a tree or in the crag of a cliff, few of us have ever gotten a glimpse inside. When a mother eagle builds her nest, she starts with thorns, broken branches, sharp rocks, and a number of other items that seem entirely unsuitable for the project. But then she lines the nest with a thick padding of wool, feathers, and fur from other animals that she has killed, making it soft and comfortable for the eggs. And by the time the growing birds reach flying age, the comfort of the nest and the luxury of the free meals make them quite reluctant to leave. Sounds like a lot of people in their 20s and 30s these days. You got that, okay. And that's when the mother eagle begins stirring up the nest. With her strong talons, she begins pulling up the thick carpet of fur and feathers, bringing the sharp rocks and branches to the surface. As more of the bedding gets plucked up, the nest becomes more uncomfortable for the young eagles. Kind of like my dad when he told me I was going to have to start paying for stuff. I wanted to leave. Eventually, this and other urgings prompt the other eagles to leave their once comfortable abode and move on to more mature behavior. You know what I'm beginning to feel from God? Prickly things, sharp rocks. He's making it uncomfortable for me to be comfortable at the level I'm at. And for you and I to get where we're supposed to be, we're going to have to get out of the nest. We're going to have to get out of our comfort zone and get to a different level. We have to. Take it from this pastor. When I was writing this out and studying it, I bought 5 pairs of shoes in one day. Stepped all over my toes. That's where we have to go. We have to get to another level. Do you want to see what God has for you? Do you want to see what God has for this church? I do. But you know what? We're not ever going to see it at the level we're at. We got to get to another one. We have to get to another level. It starts with you. What's inside of you? Have you got a hunger? Have you got a desire? Are you letting your anointing spring forth every day? Are you pursuing another level? I'm going to. It's time to quit playing with God. It's time to get to another level. That's our church theme this year.